not necessarily all people with autism has got social communication disorder.
One big misconception which even I had myself in the early day was, oh takutlah nak bagi Hans AA sini nanti dia tak nak bercakap langsung.
Yeah.
I remember for my eldest neurodivergent, he used to start crying sebab dia ingat dia kena marah sebab sebab tangan because of the position of akimbo and like this and the hands going this way, but that was just their way of talking.
Tapi I guess my face said it all. So dia macam, Mama, what do you want to say? Are you not, dia cakap macam tu, are you not saying it because you don't want me to cry?
Hello, selamat sejahtera. Hari ini kami di Kita Family merakamkan episod ke-62. Kami di Kita Family ini adalah satu platform yang membincangkan perihal berkaitan dengan makna serta kepentingan hidup bermasyarakat, menghargai keunikan serta kepelbagaian sesama kita, dan meraihkan masyarakat yang berbilang agama, kaum, kepercayaan, rupa dan juga keupayaan. Kita juga menghargai hidup secara inklusif. Hidup ini, bila kita inklusif, ia mengambil kira keperluan segenap lapisan masyarakat yang terutamanya berkurang atau berkelainan upaya. So, bila kita kembali ke Kita Family hari ini, bersama saya adalah Desiree di studio.
Hai.
Dengan baju kuning pekat dan berbaju merah seperti saya adalah kakak SK.
Apa khabar?
Dan dari Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Didi.
Hai, Assalamualaikum.
Hari ini topik kami telah diubah suai sikit. Pada mulanya kami telah mencadangkan satu topik berkenaan bahasa pragmatik, tetapi tiba-tiba kakak SK telah tiba-tiba dia cakap, isn't it too technical? Baru kami fikir, sebab kami ni kadang-kadang kan bila nak membincangkan topik itu, kami tidak rasa teknikal sebab kami sering menggunakan bahasa itu, tapi kakak SK mempunyai satu poin yang sangat bagus, iaitu kalau kita bagi satu topik yang terlalu teknikal tanpa membeli pendahuluan or a preliminary view, we will lose the audience. So in that context, we have decided that today the topic is going to be social communication disorder, and the second part we will discuss alternative communication devices. Iaitu gangguan komunikasi sosial bagi bahagian pertama, dan bahagian kedua adalah cara-cara untuk berkomunikasi dan device-device yang ada di pasaran pada hari ini. So without further ado, I will introduce apa itu social communication disorder dengan memanggil input daripada kakak SK.
Okay, terima kasih untuk sambut my suggestion earlier, because sebenarnya socialization that leads to social communication, and then we want to understand what is that challenge. So social communication disorder sebenarnya, kalau kami gunakan dalam our diagnostic tool, it is a recognized diagnosis. Okay, now I want to move away from that. So we all know socializing sebenarnya is may be natural to kebanyakan orang, tetapi for some of us, socialization or socializing can be challenging to the extent that it can create social anxiety. So social communication disorder too, in simple terms, will have characteristic where it impacts our conversation. Yeah. It does not, to demystify it, it does not mean this person do not have ability or do not have intellect, yeah? But they have difficulty making conversations. It is not a problem with pertuturan, yeah? So somewhere along the line, being able to express clearly, to maybe even understand. So communication is two-way. Yeah. So both the challenge or disorder will impact both our understanding and our delivery of language.
So kakak, kalau kita tanyakan, social communication disorder ni bukan semua orang yang didiagnose on the autism spectrum, atau not all neurodivergents have social communication disorder.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's very important to point out.
Yes.
Yeah, because kalau dalam autism, there is two simple diets, we call it. Yeah, I just remind ourselves they have social communication challenges, right? Some may not have social communication disorder. Okay, and the other diet we talk about autism is then they require regular, repetitive actions to help them calm themselves, yeah, and so forth. So you're right, not necessarily all people with autism has got social communication disorder.
Okay, I personally know of a dyslexic adult who is excellent at social communication, and he gets a little bit anxious when he's left alone. So I always say that, despite his challenges in learning, he's a social butterfly. Right? But so that can happen with anybody. So, but there are others who are really good at communicating via writing, but when you meet them, they're quite a different personality. So often, at least in my area of work, when I see that difference of someone who's writing an email to me and then coming across so differently when meeting in person, I often sit and ponder as to whether they actually have a disorder or they put on a different aura when they are communicating in writing and when they see you in person. So Didi, can I now take this thought to you, especially with you having experience with two very different neurodivergents at home? How do you see this social communication disorder?
Looking back kan, I think of course bila looking back tu lebih ketara, mungkin sekarang bentuknya berbeza. But if we look back masa betul-betul mula-mula the development of their language kan, social skill, kalau kita bayangkan, kita fikirkan anak yang typical kan, dengan limited vocabulary, bila dia nak meminta sesuatu, kalau dia tak ada words yang dia boleh bercakap lagi, dia hulur tangan, and then dia boleh point. Dan bila dia, antara perkataan pertama yang dia boleh cakap adalah nak
nak
kan, selalunya nak. Tapi apa yang terjadi, ataupun tak nak, and no is always like macam no. Kan, antara perkataan pertama yang anak-anak tipikal selalu kuasai lah. Tetapi apa yang terjadi pada anak saya, terutamanya pada anak sulung saya, dia mempunyai vocabulary, kosakata yang sangat besar apabila berumur 2 tahun. Dan bukan sahaja boleh menyebut banyak perkataan, tahu banyak perkataan, dia boleh membaca perkataan-perkataan tersebut. Tetapi dia tidak boleh menggunakan perkataan untuk meminta. Even kalau nak susu pun menangis sahaja. Dia tak boleh cakap nak, dia tak ada pointing, menunjuk pun tak ada, dia tak ada penggunaan bahasa tubuh tu pun tidak selaras dengan umur. Itu dah menunjukkan kan perkembangan bahasa, perkembangan social communication yang tidak selari, dan itulah yang dikatakan disorder kan. Itu yang terjadi pada anak saya. Jadi semua orang perlu faham bahawa penguasaan bahasa bukan sekadar boleh menuturkan sesuatu perkataan, you boleh say it out loud. Okay, contoh buku, you boleh cakap buku. Tapi kalau kita tidak boleh menggunakannya dalam konteks yang betul, kita tak boleh menggunakan, bila nak minta buku pun tak boleh nak sebut saya mahu buku, ataupun macam dengan menggunakan, kalau kita tak cukup kosakata, macam contoh kan, bila kita pergi bercuti di negara-negara yang bahasanya asing dengan bahasa kita akan cuba menggunakan mungkin bahasa Inggeris yang basic dan juga menggunakan banyak bahasa what you call body language, bahasa isyarat yang kita rasa macam orang pasti faham, agak-agak faham lah kalau macam makan, minum kan, macam tu. Jadi boleh nampaklah perkembangan social communication mereka tidak sama dengan anak-anak tipikal. So ini dalam contoh keadaan mereka yang autistik. Tapi seperti yang kita maklum, autistik tidak semestinya mengalami, macam Anit cakap tadi, tidak semestinya mengalami social communication disorder, dan juga antara satu autistik dengan seorang autistik yang lain tidak semestinya mempunyai masalah yang sama. Walaupun mungkin diagnosis disordernya sama, tapi memang tak sama. Sebab bila saya tengok anak saya yang sulung dan anak saya yang kedua pun memang ada perbezaannya lah.
So, that sort of reminds me sebab kadang-kadang ada makcik-makcik ni bila mereka nak sampaikan pesanan tu, mereka akan like their body language is so different. Letak tangan macam ni dengan point-point macam ni, right? And I remember for my eldest neurodivergent, he used to start crying sebab dia ingat dia kena marah sebab sebab tangan because of the position of akimbo and like this and the hands going this way, but that was just their way of talking. And some aunties pitch is also higher kan, pitch dia tinggi, so tiba-tiba dia macam tiba-tiba rasa nak nangis. So when you look at him and say why, dia kata school, I didn't do anything wrong. Tapi sebab dia tak faham that was a social cue. Tapi kalau anak typical tu tengok benda-benda macam ni, boleh gelak, boleh ignore, boleh pergi buat benda lain sebab mereka tahu inilah cara pertuturan dia. And then some of them are very good at mimicking as well. They will say, and when you see little children mimicking adults, you pun rasa cute kan? Tapi sebab they have seen others doing it. Tapi when neurodivergent cuba, mereka tidak dapat distinguish the actual social cue, that becomes a bit of a problem. And I don't know, I remember saying that's just like that, but it was not something that came naturally, or even when I explained, it was not something easy for them to understand. So I remember taking this to the speech language therapist, and dia cakap dia buat social story. Some people speak loudly, some people speak softly, and some people use hand gestures. So perlu breakdown sampai anak tu faham cara-cara berkomunikasi itu berlainan, dan tidak semestinya seseorang itu tengah marah bila cakap dengan pitch yang tinggi, ataupun gelak dengan kuat, ataupun tiba-tiba hoi. Tapi ada yang nangis, ada yang ketawa bila dengar benda yang sama. So I'm now going to take this to Desiree, who's a teacher, because salah satu perkara yang saya telah belajar bila belajar more about social communication disorder is you target it to your audience, and it's about teaching the neurodivergents that in different settings what sort of target language is used. So on to Desiree about how as a teacher you adapt, and whether that is something that you feel you can share on social communication.
Okay, so firstly, to clarify, I teach regular neurotypical kids.
Yes.
I've had a couple of neurodivergent students, but I wasn't specifically trained to teach language to neurodivergents until much later. Something that came up to me masa kita berbincangkan is language techniques. So these are things that a lot of neurodivergents may find hard to grasp idioms, right? Phrasal verbs. For example, kita ni kan suka bersindir bila bercakap. So bila kita bersindir dengan orang yang neurodivergent, mereka ambil sebagai literally. They take it literally. So for example, if a kid is walking in the middle of the road, you go like, hey, your father's road is it? And a neurodivergent would probably reply and say, no, this is a public road, right? These are
Jalan bapa engkau ya.
Exactly, or sometimes I used to get this all the time, like kalau minta duit ke dari parents, you think money is growing on trees, is it? So things like this, which is very much part of our language dalam semua bahasa. Dan di Malaysia ni kita kan pelbagai bangsa, pelbagai bahasa, right? So we have all these nuances in between. It makes it a lot harder, kan, for our neurodivergent friends. So I think it's about being more conscious as well on the language that we use, and jangan anggap semua orang faham benda-benda ni, because actually it's hard. It's actually hard. And I learned this from a very recent class I was teaching last week to a neurotypical student of mine. Dan dia ni sangat-sangat confident. Walaupun dia form 2 sekarang, tapi mak dia minta saya ajar dia either Singapore or IGCSE level. Dan setiap level yang saya bagi kepada pelajar ni, dia selalu cakap, it's so easy. Saya boleh buat. So, I bagi dia lah the toughest of the toughest, right? And we came to a point where finally dia tak faham one thing, and I actually felt a bit relieved that okay lah, berbaloi lah, saya boleh ajar pelajar ni kan. And he still until now cannot understand the concept of irony. Kan? Irony kalau saya nak explain sekarang pun akan ambil masa yang panjang. So things like this kan, I think when it comes to social communication, we need to realize that, especially when communicating with our kids, kan kadang-kadang kita marah ke, we are having a tough day ke, and then we say things like, ingat bapa engkau punya rumah ke ni, bapa engkau punya this. So when we use phrases like that, they take it literally. So I think it's a very important reminder.
So Kakak, how would you say we need to introduce social communication on a basic level to parents out there?
Okay. Before I answer that, Anit, as we were all speaking, I teringat ada situasi kelakar. Okay. And forgive me if I laugh at it. Let me give you one more example. I'm going backwards, of social cue yang kami bilang tadi, in relation to facial expression. Yeah. So these 2 stories is like that. When Joshua was little, we had to take a passport photograph. Now, can you imagine? He was very cute. Perhaps masa tu umur 4-5 aja. And his teeth was also not complete, kan? And the photographer says, smile. Can you imagine for somebody who has difficulty to adjust their facial expression? In fact, it's actually one of my favorite photographs of little Joshua. And that illustrates something that is so simple, to have a smile. Maybe that challenge of socializing. Right? How do we explain it to parents? Sometimes, how do we express it really is more the visibility of the challenge of social communication. I tambahkan satu lagi cerita. So as we then, I want to many parents may not understand, not just parents actually, many individuals don't understand. Sebenarnya, social communication ini perlu dibelajari. Okay? It's very much like different culture will respond or react socially to certain situation. Okay. Sorry, before I go there, I'm going to go back to one more cerita on the facial expression. We had the opportunity to coach some of the adults for access to work. So one of the things to do is to train them for interviews, how to be more socially appropriate. Yeah. And again, this facial expression challenge can come out quite in a magnified way. One example is they may be staring inappropriately. Yeah. And I have to say, sometimes if we take the lighter side of things, it is quite funny.
And comical.
It's comical, yeah? So please forgive me. I don't mean to belittle it, but these are the chiri-chiri that coming back and relating to your question, how do we then explain it to individual as well as our family? So sebenarnya, one I like to say, if you take away anything from this session, social communication boleh dibelajari. And for our anak-anak sama ada autisma lah or any other neurodivergent challenges, they may take a longer time to learn social context, ya, keadaan macam mana, so that they can respond appropriately. Yeah, and if again, I'm very, very happy to be in Malaysia. We get so many opportunities to learn the different cultural contexts, and it's okay, right, not to know how to behave at first. Yeah, so I like to encourage that when there is social communication challenge, boleh dipelajari to the extent that will make the person included. Yeah.
Didi, I asked this question because I know both your girls are verbal, and when they went for speech and language therapy, did you have to do that homework of identifying a happy face, a sad face, a shocked face? And how did you do that with the children? Because that was one of the 101 of teaching social cues and social communication, when the way I remember it.
Betul, like kita pakai flashcard and then kita buat mimik muka juga kan, nak bagi dia faham macam mana. And then macam Amy kan, dia suka berlakon, even took picture of her own face. And dia buat lah, and then lepas dah ambil, and then tunjuk balik, okay, this is sad, this is happy. And tapi the thing is, kadang-kadang kan bila belajar tu, dia dalam gambar tu kan lebih dramatik. Tapi apa yang berlaku dalam real life, dia tidaklah sebegitu sebenarnya. Kita punya expression tidaklah terlalu dramatik, kadang lebih subtle daripada flashcard itulah. So jadi kadang-kadang kita point out juga, itu muka sedih kan, sambil tengok movie, sambil tengok kartun kan, kadang karakter yang dia suka tu, kita point out lah, oh ini sedih, dia sedih kan. So not just label it, we make it into conversation as well. Terapkan juga, tak adalah macam everything is so academic kan, terlampau macam okay, this is ini sedih, ini marah, ini suka. Dan macam anak saya yang Amy banyak belajar social skills. Dia lebih daripada Afia, sebab Afia dia punya pengasuhan bahasa dia lebih baik, dan kemudian kerana emotional regulation dia pun lebih baik. Tapi bagi Amy, dia perlukan lebih banyak terapi. Dia sangat minat belajar. Tapi macam tadi SK cakap belajar kan boleh dipelajari. Saya nak sambung, extend sikit. Selain daripada boleh dipelajari, bila belajar maksudnya dia tahu kan, dia tahu, sudah mengetahui tentang sesuatu itu, kemudian perlu dilatih. Dan ada anak-anak yang memerlukan latihan yang lebih panjang, lebih berterusan dan lebih banyak pengulangannya. Mungkin makan masa bertahun-tahun pun ada. Sampai tahap dia boleh selesa dengan kemahiran itu, ataupun harapannya boleh menguasai lah kan, penguasaan yang lebih baik. Tapi of course kita mahukan tahap yang dia selesa, dia confident, bukannya tahap yang kita mahukan tahap yang seperti orang tipikal, tak semestinya. Tapi satu kemahiran yang kadang-kadang rasa macam kesian juga sebab dia bukannya masking, tapi kemahiran yang kita latih supaya dia lebih dapat berfungsi dengan lebih baik, dapat buat kawan, dapat dapat berkomunikasi, bersosial dengan cousins, dengan saudara mara, dengan guru-guru di sekolah. So mungkin kadang-kadang ada yang rasa macam adakah kita mahu melatih mereka menjadi normal? Tidak. Tapi of course bila kita cakap pasal neurodiversity ni, now it's time for us to go both ways lah. Kan? Kita faham apa yang mereka faham dan kita give and take lah. Tak boleh lah macam if you are not at the level yang macam orang lain, macam anak neurotypical ataupun individu neurotypical, you're not good enough. So we don't want that lah. Tapi of course macam hari ni saya nak cerita satu insiden yang berlaku hari ni lah. Not the actual incident, I'm not going to give detail. Tapi sesuatu telah berlaku di sekolah anak saya, Emilia, she's 14. So dia memberitahu saya tentang insiden tersebut ketika kami berada di dalam kafe. Saya buat pesanan lah nak beli kopi. Jadi dia memberitahu saya tentang apa yang berlaku di sekolah dan saya hendak memberitahu dia bahawa apa yang berlaku itu tidak sepatutnya terjadi. Tetapi I know better that if I said it there, nanti dia mungkin akan sangat upset lah. Sangat upset dan mungkin akan menjerit ke, menangis ke, which kita pun tak nak lah dia berlaku di tempat awam kan, sebab dia pun baru keluar daripada kelas. Tapi I guess my face said it all. So dia macam, Mama, what do you want to say? Are you not, dia cakap macam tu, are you not saying it because you don't want me to cry?
So that's self-awareness.
It shows.
She's got the social cue, A1.
Yeah. Tapi itulah, nampak gaya mak dia punya lakonan gagal lah kan. I tried to cover tapi tak boleh juga. Tapi I macam no, it's okay, nanti. So I did not say it, say anything. Dalam kereta baru cakap lah. So benda-benda macam tu, it take years to develop dan memerlukan keluarga yang sentiasa bercakap tentang emosi. Tadi macam Anit cakap, mula dengan menggunakan flashcard ke, ataupun kita guna iPad pun ada kan, guna screen. Mungkin mula dengan emoji, lepas tu guna dengan gambar orang yang sebenar, kemudian gambar sendiri. So the talk about emotion tu tak habis lagi. Walaupun dah umur 15, 16 tahun, kami masih lagi bercakap tentang emosi, masih lagi bercakap tentang gestures, what it means by this, what it means by that. So it's not just about perkataan-perkataan yang digunakan seharian lah.
Okay. That reminded me of what I had to do, sebab saya mula-mula takut nak suruh Nira pergi beli apa-apa daripada kedai, until I was encouraged to say let's practice it and then give him a chance. Tapi saya rasa nak ikut, and then I pun rasa nak intervene bila dia tengah order, sebab kadang-kadang cara mereka cakap tu sangat rigid kan, macam dah rehearse, it looks like a script that's being recited. So the recipient of that instruction kadang-kadang, actually not kadang-kadang, most of the time terkejut lah, tiba-tiba like because it's such a recital, here top up touch and go 100. So dia like, terkejut, right? Yeah. Instead of just passing the card and top up 100, macam cara cakap pun tak rigid, tak, very 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 rigid. Tetapi saya diberi confidence oleh terapis untuk cakap biar dia cuba, tak apa. Orang yang menerima arahan tu kadang-kadang faham, kadang-kadang tak faham, tapi with time anak you akan belajar untuk lembutkan suara, dan dia pun akan belajar macam mana nak bagi arahan. Tapi kita perlu bagi mereka peluang untuk cuba.
And it's also a learning curve for the person on the other end.
Yes.
Right? Because we want a more inclusive society, right? And ini sebenarnya saya dapat latihan hands-on dari kakak. When we go out sometimes kan, dengan Hans, dengan kakak, and sometimes we need that nudge, we need that confidence for someone to hold you and say, Desiree, stop. let him be, and let's see how people respond. So we also need to give society a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just interject there before we move? As Didi ceritakan all the situation, that word emotional learning, actually social communication learning, kami patut be aware lah. It's social communication and social emotional learning. What Anit you described, dari self awareness too, then they can self manage, right? We kerap kali discusskan independent life skill. So social communication is part of this independent ability of being aware that you may speak differently, but it's okay. Okay? Then you can self-manage. After that, we can then extend this to the social awareness. And I love how you put it. Social awareness ni, again, is two-way. Yeah. We become conscious, but we become more able to manage. Yeah. Then we allow a bigger opening to societal awareness. And that is the one that we want to be bold, be different. Tak apalah, we just treat it as if somebody giggle, we try to be bold. Yeah. And it's okay that they are called awkward, kan? Selalu this is the word that's used when you are socially awkward. And I love what Didi says. We keep encouraging us and encouraging our children. We can change the phrase socially awkward to be socially unique ataupun socially different. That is where all this understanding that we want to bring today in this is be bold, be different, be unique, and then kami semua dapat be inclusive.
That triggered a story, Kakak. Before a quick one before I asked Desiree a question and we go to break. A really, really good friend of mine cerita pasal this incident in her workplace, and she works in Singapore. Sebab di Singapore ada program di mana the lower functioning group of neurodivergents are trained to do things like office cleaning and come in to do some of the pantry work in bigger organizations. And how they do it is they have a supervisor that will teach them the routine. And with most neurodivergents, kalau mereka sudah faham routine, mereka akan buat ikut routine itu sebab itu adalah perkara yang menjadi almost automatic kepada mereka.
Yeah.
So ada seseorang neurodivergent itu, dia datang, dia jadi cleaner. So kawan saya ni memang dah exposed to neurodivergence, so she used to greet him every morning, and the minute she used to greet him, he used to come into her room and start doing the cleaning. Lebih kurang seminggu selepas itu, setiap hari dia buat macam itu, dia tengah buat kerja dan hyper focused on her task, that she realized he was at the door, but she didn't say anything because she didn't look up from her PC and she was too busy doing her work. And she noticed that after standing there for 5 minutes, he moved away. And the same thing happened the next day. So on the third day, she was thinking about it, and despite doing that, she didn't look up, but she just said, "Good morning," and he walked in. So on day 3, the penny dropped for her as the recipient, that his signal to come into the room and start the cleaning was the fact that she would say good morning. So I love what we all said about inclusiveness and how sometimes for a neurotypical, we then realize the cue and then we are able to adapt to including that person instead of saying, kenapa komplainnya dia tak masuk, tak buat apa, and reflecting kenapa dia tak buat sedemikian. So on that note, I want to ask Desiree, we've all been talking about social communication with children who are verbal. What about those who are non-verbal?
This is we need a whole episode for that.
So we're introducing it.
Yeah. So I think social communication for those who are non-verbal, especially in the case of Hans, a lot of it depends on what he's exposed to. And I think this is also the same thing for those who can speak. What you're exposed to. So like, like what Didi was saying, what Kakak was saying about how it can be taught. Likewise, teaching is one thing, but modeling it, practicing it ourselves, practicing what we preach, right? That's how our children learn. So I would say, it's not tak berbeza sangat sebenarnya. Kita masih ajar mereka tentang social communication. Gunakan cara-cara yang digunakan dengan mereka yang boleh bertutur. It's just that maybe and like what Didi said as well, sometimes it takes longer for some people. And if you ask me, I don't think it's longer just because they can't speak. We think it's longer because they are not responding to us in spoken language. But they can communicate. They have the language. It's just that they don't say it in a way we understand, which I think we're going to talk about more lepas break, kan?
So on that note,
and just before you close the note, I again want to reiterate for the non-verbal communication, sebenarnya, we spoke about it. The facial expression, we use sign language, we use body language, and what we're going to come to talk about in the second part of the afternoon.
And the devices.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, we take a short break and we will be right back. Selamat kembali ke episod ke-62 Kita Family Podcast, di mana kami sedang membincangkan gangguan communication social. The first part earlier, we spoke about the different types of social communication disorders and the instances where we encounter it. Now we're taking it a step further. What are the devices or what are the tools that are available to assist neurodivergence with overcoming or living or adapting with social communication disorder? So we'll start with Desiree, who has quite a lot to share today.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief so that others have a chance to speak. I'm just kidding. So we're talking about AAC, kan? So and saya rasa kalau mereka yang exposed to the neurodivergent community memang pernah dengar this term AAC, and what it stands for is Augmentative and Alternative Communication, AAC. Dan sebenarnya ada banyak tanggapan bahawa AAC ni hanya wujud dalam bentuk high-tech, iaitu dalam tablet or a specific gadget. So when it first came out, you have to buy a specific AAC device. Tapi sekarang ni kita guna dalam bentuk tablet, right? You can even load it into your phone, but there are reasons why sometimes it's not recommended lah, right? Tetapi ada juga version yang saya panggil low tech, yang sebenarnya memang ramai sudah menggunakannya. Visual schedules, packs. So these are all also alternative means of communication. So what AAC is, it encompasses all methods used to supplement or replace speech and writing for individuals with communication impairment. So mereka yang tidak boleh bertutur, dan juga sebenarnya AAC ni boleh juga digunakan oleh mereka dengan autism tapi boleh bertutur. But sometimes, when they are in that fight or flight, some of them go into selective mutism, or they have a sort of a shutdown where the language part of their brain maybe doesn't function so well. The AAC device or AAC devices can be quite life-saving in those instances. Okay, so that's just to put it in the context of what AAC is.
So in other words, a person doesn't need to be completely non-verbal. They can have limited language, yes, and still use the assistance of a AAC to communicate better.
Absolutely. And one big misconception which even I had myself in the early day was, takutlah nak bagi Hans AAC ni nanti dia tak nak bercakap langsung.
Yeah.
So that is one of the biggest misconceptions actually. Saya ada pernah dengar cerita dari kawan-kawan yang memberi AAC device kepada anak mereka, dan sebab mereka dah menjadi selesa berkomunikasi, because it's a two-way, right? Once you start having with communication, whether with your parent, your teacher or therapist, dah seronok dapat berkomunikasi, and these children start talking eventually. And it's actually a very good tool to also expand their vocabulary. And like in our case with Hans, we realized that he had the vocabulary all this time. It's just that we didn't know because he doesn't say it. But when you give him the iPad, he can navigate through. Dia lebih pandai navigate the device daripada saya ataupun terapis dia. So sekarang we have reached to a point where we ask, Hans, can you find this word? He will go and and he'll find it.
Yes.
So ada sebenarnya banyak contoh dan banyak cerita my experience with Hans, tapi saya akan share a bit later. And like I said, I'm going to give others a chance to talk.
So what Desiree has just shown is the AAC device can actually be a tool to assist in promoting language development, and then probably start the rewiring of the brain that Kakak and all the therapists always talk about, to promote the language to be spoken when previously it was all somewhere inside and juggling around out to the open. Okay. Now we go to Didi on the use of devices or methods for verbal neurodivergence.
Okay, a lot of people think that because you can say the word, you boleh bercakap. You biasa boleh gunakan all the words. You nak makan, sekarang dah boleh lah. Okay mama, I want to eat this, I want to eat that. But sebenarnya ada masa-masa tertentu apabila anak kita, autistic individuals, dalam keadaan anxious, keadaan cemas ataupun dalam keadaan yang unfamiliar, situasi yang lain daripada yang lain, menyebabkan mereka lebih sukar untuk mengeluarkan perkataan secara verbal. Nak bercakap tu jadi lebih susah. Dengan keadaan tak selesa, mungkin sensory dysregulation, emotional pun tak stabil. Jadi nak cari perkataan tu susah. Apa yang terjadi pada anak saya dengan bantuan sahabat speech therapist, anak saya perlu menjalani, saya pernah cerita sebelum ni tapi tak apa cerita balik, dia perlu prosedur gigi di mana dia perlu double extraction, perlu cabut 2 gigi serentak. Tak pernah cabut gigi serentak sangat menakutkan. Saya rasa tak perlu autistik sekalipun, anyone kalau macam perlu cabut gigi serentak pertama kalinya sangat takut kan. Dan sebenarnya kalau fikirkan situasi apabila kita berada duduk di kerusi dalam dentist kan, sebenarnya dental clinic kita tak boleh bercakap pun, betul tak?
Betul.
Dengan keadaan mula
je.
It's so awkward, okay? Masa dentist mulut terbuka then they ask you a question. How do you answer?
Nak jawab yes or no pun macam. Tapi okay lah, kerana kan, kemudian ada jarum, kita nak gerak-gerak pun takut. Tapi oleh kerana kita telah menjangka ialah satu situasi yang mencemaskan, mendatangkan keresahan, satu yang menakutkan. Selain daripada kita ada social story dan kita explain from A to Z kan, kenapa, mengapa dan bagaimana, kita gambaran situasi yang akan berlaku. Kami juga membantu anak saya sulung Afia dengan menyediakan satu communication board. Communication board ni low tech lah, just print atas A4 paper and then kita laminate lah supaya tahan lebih lama. Dalam tu ada pilihan perkataan yang kita jangka Afia perlu untuk berkomunikasi dengan doktor gigi sewaktu prosedur. Dan yang menariknya, board itu kan dibuat bersama dengan Afia. Maksudnya lepas kita buat satu draft, tunjuk kepada Afia, masa tu dia berumur 14 tahun, dan dia sendiri yang memberi idea apa perkataan-perkataan tambahan yang diperlukan dan perkataan-perkataan yang dia rasa tidak perlu dalam board tu. Sebab terhad jugalah, kita bukan boleh ada 100 perkataan dalam tu pun, dan perkataan tu ada gambar dan ada simple word lah. Jadi dengan adanya kad itu, dan dia pun boleh tunjuk bila nak minta sesuatu pilihan tu dah ada. Dia nak minta blanket daripada dentist dia, ada beberapa perkara dia nak bagi tahu terlampau terang ataupun sakit. Dia just point sahaja, membuatkan keadaan lebih tenang untuk dia dan dia rasa selesa. Mungkin kerana kalau perlu memikirkan perkataan apa tu, dia memerlukan lebih banyak brain cell kan, macam usaha tu lebih. Jadi bila ni lebih mudah untuk dia. Dan termasuklah kalau kita guna macam tadi Desiree cakap visual schedule. Kadang-kadang kita rasa anak yang verbal, yang boleh menjawab dan boleh faham arahan verbal, kita boleh ingatkan hari-hari. Kita boleh cakap, okay, hari ni tidur pukul apa. Tapi sebenarnya bila ada visual schedule, benda tu dalam bentuk jadual yang mungkin kita tampal di dinding, dia lebih mudah follow sebab mungkin mereka secara visualnya lebih faham, ataupun dia proses tu daripada suara mama dengan perkataan yang printed tu, perkataan printed tu lebih mudah untuk dia proses mungkin. Sebab bila dengan kalau mama dia yang bercakap, mungkinlah dia termasuk dengan dia tadi kan dengan kita nak kata verbal cue, all the cues kan, facial ke apa semua tu macam mama ni marah ke, mama ni kan, mungkinlah jadi lebih suka untuk dia proses. Dan ada satu yang saya nak share juga, low tech. Resource sebenarnya digunakan oleh non-speaking young men yang saya pernah berjumpa lah. So oleh kerana dia adalah seorang yang tidak menggunakan banyak perkataan secara verbal, dia menggunakan satu kaedah low tech yang mula saya macam terfikir kenapa dia tak menggunakan AAC device macam iPad ataupun phone kan. Tapi kerana dia impulsif, dia kalau pegang barang tu, barang tu boleh tercampak. Jadi bayangkan kalau iPad, kalau phone, dan saya imagine mungkin dah banyak yang rosak lah. Mungkin mereka pernah cuba. Jadi apa yang digunakan, dia bukan communication board, sebab communication board tu kita gunakan berdasarkan situasi. Kalau di klinik gigi, okay, satu board. Kalau di taman permainan, satu board. Sebab set of words yang ada tu kan bergantung kepada situasi. Tapi apa yang this young man bawa dan disediakan oleh ibunya lah adalah letterboard. Ia adalah kertas A4 yang dilaminate, yang mengandungi huruf-huruf A sehingga Z. Jadi bila dia nak berkomunikasi, dia mengeja setiap perkataan yang hendak digunakan.
Nice.
So I salute kesabaran ibu dia, sebab kan just imagine spelling every single word. Dan tapi kalau macam untuk ucapan ke apa, memang ada recorded lah, yang mak dia telah record. Jadi tidaklah kita perlu menunggu untuk dia mengeja setiap patah perkataan dalam ucapan. But it's something interesting sebab selalu orang rasa macam kalau tak boleh bercakap, mungkin tidak ada apa yang nak diperkatakan, nak disampaikan. Sebenarnya tahu-tahu dah boleh membaca, dah boleh mengeja kan. So I think it's worth exploring AAC, either secara high tech gunakan device ataupun secara low tech. So yeah.
That's nice sharing. So Kakak, how do we bring this all in, and how do parents decide what sort of communication device to use, and what is it that their children need?
Okay, I'm going to pick a couple of pieces yang Didi cerita tadi, and from the beginning. So I think the key thing here, bukannya bertuturan or speech. If you look at AAC, is the communication yang terutama, yang kami perlu utamakan. Yeah. And communication in using a AAC, technically-nya dia gunakan symbols, ya. That's why you have been hearing this word, a lot of visual. Sebenarnya there is many aspects. Masa kami preparekan visual board tu, there is sequencing juga, ya. There is also the sensor for individuals or families who have used the visual board. Apa yang dibilangkan low tech tu, sebenarnya dia ada pelekat, kan? Sama lekat gambar-gambar, gambar emosi, Velcro, exactly. And that in itself has got apa tu? Sensory, kan? Not only in the texture, it's also in the not only in the texture but also strength, kan? So let's pull it in again. So it is very important, sangat utama, yang kami, please family, we spoke about the emotional part. This emotional part of our conversation appear every time. Bila kami dapat komunikasi dengan individual, keluarga kami, rakan-rakan kami, kami dapat ekspresikan, ya, apa yang kami mengingatkan. So that's the intellectual expression. I love how Didi introduced this letterboard. And Didi, you said it so correctly, if I can say. It takes a lot of ability, kan? To spell, to be in sequence. And you described the young man who actually had to work very hard in spite of his disinhibition or some of the brain's neurology. Okay? So there are many forms. I'm so glad, Desiree, that you are so kind to express your vulnerability, because ramai ibu bapa, dia khawatir. Kalau dia tak bertutur, macam mana dia akan dapatkan latihan? Yeah, and I think that is valid. So bila you dapat kan professional that will help you, they will do oro-motor exercises to support the speech, which is the sound. Kan? So communication is many aspects. What we want to enable and facilitate our children is to be able to express. And to be able to express is that socialization ability, to say that I feel happy, or walaupun I feel sad, because then you won't be isolated. Kan? So it all comes back to AAC provides a tool. And as you also, I'm summarizing again, even highly intellectually able individuals with autism may benefit from a AAC, because masa dia sudah sangat letih, yeah, as we know, they can get dysregulated. We can get, not they, even I get dysregulated. It is a choice then, this is a choice yang kami boleh gunakan apa yang boleh disedia adakan for us. It's a tool. So one thing though, before I end, is whilst AAC is very trendy, yeah, as we know, now AACs are not necessarily only in a device. So the accessibility from low tech to phone tech memang banyak. What we want to encourage is the integration of what that means, the learning, yeah? The learning, the training, the upskilling, so that if the therapist is introducing that as a communication tool, we can generalize it better kalau guru-guru di sekolah, kan? Ibu bapa di rumah, and also my hope is kedai-kedai pun dapat sambutkan AAC. So please continue to learn and get upgraded. And I'll just close with this fact. Sebenarnya kami semua ni, I believe sudah pernah gunakan AAC. Kalau you sudah beli Pokeball, okay, it is actually a visual schedule. You start here, then you choose the rice, then you choose the lauk, and in the end, you dapat your output. Yeah, that is a very simple example. And I love in Japan, or even now in our Pokeball stalls, it is actually a communication tool.
I want to share that one non-verbal neurodivergent parent shared with me that one of the first things she taught her child was how to ask for help. And because she felt that was the 101 of survival skills and the 101 of communication, because normally if they're okay, they're hungry, they sort of have a means of telling you, but if they need help, they sometimes don't have the language. They go into a panic, they freeze.
Yeah.
And she wanted them to be able to do it. And all she said was, hold on to my hand and pull me by the hand. And that's what the child started doing. And after a while, it was help, holding on to the hand and pulling the mom along. And that itself was a 101, which I found so ingenious. Like I said, we all have our strengths. And I would have never thought of doing that until I saw her and how she trained that child because of her fear that the child would be in danger and not be able to minta tolong. So dia bagi cara yang paling basic. So, the way we always say, all neurodivergent can be trained, boleh dipelajari seperti kakak bagi tahu hari ini. So, sebagai ibu bapa, kita pun boleh modify apa yang perlu diajar dan apakah kriteria, apakah our benchmark of what we need to communicate to them and them to communicate to us and to the world. We end with any last words from Desiree?
Well, actually, I had a short cerita,
Yes.
if we can. And it's also my summary lah to AAC. Sebenarnya, going on this AAC journey is very hard. Okay, I want to acknowledge that first. It's very hard. Tak senang because as Esther and Kitty, our speech therapists, always say, it is their mouth, right? This is how they communicate. So maknanya, bila sesuatu tu menjadi mulut anda, ia mesti ikut anda ke mana-mana saja. It's so much easier said than done. I acknowledge as a mother, I think I don't put it out there enough for him, right? We expect our kid to go and take it from the bag and leave it accessible. So that is one thing, making it accessible at home. The other thing that we are just coming out of now is learning that teachers in school, we cannot expect them to know this. We cannot expect them to know how to handle an app because there are so many different apps out there.
Yes.
But we can help them learn, right? So we came to a point where dekat sekolah, Hans bawa AAC dalam bag dia. Dan selepas beberapa bulan, saya dapat tahu bahawa it stays in his bag. Then at first, Desiree marah lah sikit, right? So I went and in a very nice way, I asked, why is this happening? So I investigate. I put on my detective hat. Okay, why are they doing this? These are not people who are cruel. So bila, saya bercakap dengan cikgu, back and forth, then I realise, number one, mereka tidak tahu sebenarnya macam mana to guide. Their role is as teachers. As teachers, they have this. Saya kena ajar benda ni kepada pelajar, 5 orang pelajar hari ini. And here comes Hans yang membawa AAC dia seorang sahaja yang ada iPad tu. So what do you think happens to the other 4 kids? Diorang pun curious. What is this? And because it is his iPad, his mouse, and also it is a way for him to self-regulate. I've actually inserted self-regulation things in there for him. Hans is also a very friendly, cheeky boy. Dia pun nak show off. Look, friends, tengok Hans ada ni. So the friends get distracted in the class. So, apa teacher buat? Any teacher lah. Tak kisah whether you are teaching neurodivergent ke neurotypical. The first thing you do when there's a distraction, remove it. iPad is taken away from him. So when Hans is frustrated, he is back to square one. He cannot communicate it. So then teacher, Hans dah frustrated lah. Cepat bagi iPad. By that time, he does not have the ability to communicate. So the solution was collaboration. And we learned this from Kaka all the time, kan? I went back to the speech therapist and said, look, this is what we need now. Can you please go to the school for observation? Because I can talk to the teacher till I'm blue in the face, but they need help. Can you please go in, observe, and give them the tools, And I'm very blessed, the school, the teachers memang sangat suka belajar. Yeah. And now we've come to a point, hari-hari bila saya ambil Hans dari sekolah, teacher yang bawa iPad. Mami, hari ni Hans dah boleh belajar ni. The teacher is showing off to me what Hans has learned. right? So I think the first thing is learn, upskill yourself, learn about the technology, learn about the different options. Find the one that suits your situation best. Dengan app ni pun ada banyak app AAC sebenarnya. Ada yang sangat mahal in the thousands, ada yang murah. Doesn't mean mahal lebih bagus, right? Find a one that suits you and work with the professionals to help. It's worth investing. So even the school visit, memang saya kena bayar for the school visit, but it's worth every single cent that I spend. Because these things cost money. That's the fact, right? So if you're going to go down that AAC road, remember, number one, it's not easy, tapi don't give up.
What Desiree has just described is a mummy's social communication skill of providing the people who work with her child with the right strategies to make the AAC the mouthpiece of a non-verbal neurodivergent. And how amazing is that? Didi, any last words?
Well, if you talk about social communication, it involves a lot of training, which is also through experience, not just in class, in social skills group therapy ke apa. It's not happen in therapy room je, in real life kan. Jadi mungkin mula-mula masa anak kita kecil, kita punya bila kita cuba express emotion tu, kita menggunakan dalam skala yang lebih besar supaya lebih obvious. Tapi of course day to day dia tidaklah se-obvious itu, tapi perlu diteruskan dan ada ketikanya kita perlu point out lah. Macam apa yang saya buat dengan anak-anak kan, apa yang saya suka kalau ada benda-benda yang menarik dalam, kalau kita ada road trip kan, dalam perjalanan, benda tu menarik ataupun kelakar, I like to point it out. So what happen kan, bila anak-anak ni dah besar, diorang pun dah pandai dah macam, if something caught their eyes and dia rasa macam, ini mungkin sesuatu yang akan menarik perhatian mama dengan daddy. So all this while kan, daripada kecil kita, tengok-tengok. So mereka pun telah dapat, dapat minat lah macam tu. Kalau nampak tepi jalan, look at that. So I guess kalau kita tidak berkomunikasi, kita sendiri pun tak bercakap dengan anak, kita pun tidak mendedahkan all this kan, cara kalau bercakap suatu gembira macam mana, kalau bercakap memberi arahan macam mana, kalau nak mengadu sakit macam mana, anak-anak kita tak akan faham dan tak akan dapat menguasai sesuatu. Itulah kemahiran tu kan kita mahukan supaya orang lain lebih faham. Jadi teruskan dan make it a conscious effort. Dia tidak hanya menunggu situasi-situasi yang semula jadi. Kalau macam tak ada apa nak cakap, tak cakap. Tapi kita yang perlu create lah all this conversation, all this latihan kan, cakap pasal emosi, cakap tentang apa yang jadi di sekolah supaya dia pandai untuk report, and then cakap pasal process of things supaya dia tahu tentang consequences, cakap tentang apa yang berlaku di persekitaran ke, daripada newspaper tak adalah sekarang, news article, apa yang jadi daripada news yang kita tengok di television. So it's a conscious effort. Kalau anak-anak tipikal mungkin dapat menguasai secara semula jadi, tak perlu kita ajar cara nak bercakap. Kalau bercakap dengan orang lebih tua macam mana, bercakap dengan orang yang sebaya macam mana. It's not. Kalau untuk anak-anak neurodivergent, in my case untuk anak-anak saya, ia perlu diajar secara eksplisit, secara terang, secara konkret. So that's what some of us have to do, and that's what we are doing and we will do sampai bila-bila lah.
Thank you, Didi. Kakak, any last words?
So social communication is lifelong learning.
Perfect. We always talk about diversity in Kita family. We live in a country that's diverse. All our wedding ceremonies, the way we pray, the way we practice our faith, the cultural things are different. So we are constantly learning, and similarly, it is for neurodivergence when it comes to social communication. What they think would be appropriate in terms of going to one place of faith may be different in a different temple, in a different church, in a different mosque. So it's, as Kakak said, it's lifelong learning, and as long as we keep trying and kita hidup secara inklusif dan celebrate kepelbagaian, we will keep going. So with that, today we would like to thank everybody for joining us and continuing to support Kita Family. Can you please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about us, tell us what social communication issues you have encountered, strategies yang tolong, seperti Desiree share hari ini, ada strategies, kalau apa-apa strategies yang memang berjalan lancar dan memberi manfaat kepada anak-anak anda, tolong share supaya orang lain pun dapat belajar. And that's what our platform is there for. Please like us on social media. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and please continue to communicate and increase our social communication network. Thank you very much, and saying goodbye from episode 62. Bye.
Bye.